You're watching Green Homes and Bacon.
I'm at the northern New South Wales town of Bangalow to get an inside look at a plant growing and manufacturing industry that some describe as the farming of the future, and with extremely good reason.
That's right, Lee is on the trail to learn more about the widely misunderstood plant called hemp and to uncover why it's regarded as the most useful plant ever known to mankind. And to do that, she caught up with the renowned hemp expert and industry leader, Paul Benham.
It's quite interesting, all the misunderstandings that have been put around this one significant plant. And it is a significant plant because it is a sustainable alternative for so many different uses. We can make plastics, we can make paper, we can make textiles, and we can make wonderful healthy foods for our bodies from just this one particular plant. It doesn't use much water, doesn't use many chemicals, and grows throughout the whole of Australia as well as the rest of the world.
Then what's all the mystery and misunderstanding that surrounds it?
Well, what we're talking about here is industrial hemp. Industrial hemp is a crop that's been grown for thousands of years throughout time, and we can grow it here today in Australia, as has been done around the rest of the world for many different uses. It's actually grown to create different forms of plastics, paper, textiles, and horse bedding, building products, and of course a healthy, nutritious food.
So Paul, why is there so much misunderstanding surrounding it in regards to what's the difference between marijuana, cannabis, heroin, whoopie weed? What's all the differences?
Well, that's a great question that I find really interesting, is that first of all, there is no difference between hemp and cannabis except for it contains no drug at all. And that's one big difference, of course, which allows people to be able to grow it and actually to harvest it and to process products without causing any psychoactive properties. And you asked the difference between heroin also. Well, what's the difference between heroin and poppy seeds? Well, again, the same thing. They both come from the opium poppy plant, yet one is used on bagels and can be eaten without any drug effects, where heroin is, of course, the psychoactive form and the negative form that is a drug. So hemp is exactly the same in that respect.
Can you tell me about the history of hemp, like globally?
Sure. Well, hemp has been grown for thousands of years. We believe it started in China. Before records began, the first Bible was produced from hemp. Some of the first papers, banknotes were written on hemp paper. It was actually used in textiles and handmade textiles throughout Asia. And it spread to Europe not so long ago, where it's been used for more quality textiles. It's been also used to make some modern bioplastics more recently over in Europe and North America, and now Asia is starting to catch on with these things. And the food from hemp has also been eaten for thousands of years. So it was actually said that Buddha ate one hemp seed a day in his ascetic period. But now millions of people around the world are buying hemp for their children, for their mature age friends, and everyone in between for a whole different many uses.
So is it true that you can actually make cars out of hemp?
Absolutely. Henry Ford was said to make one of his first cars out of a composite material that included hemp. There's actually a video of Henry Ford hitting his car with an axe, and the axe actually bounced off the car. So unlike today's vehicles that get dented really easily, these cars actually bounced off. So he was one of my inspirations for actually creating some hemp plastics many years ago, because that technology was just lost. And more recently, Lotus has produced an Elise car made from hemp biocomposites, which is really exciting that hemp is starting to make a serious comeback in the world.
It hasn't always been legal to actually farm hemp in Australia, has it, Paul?
No, actually hemp was illegal because it came under the cannabis, because cannabis and hemp are the same thing.
Hello, Warren here. Sorry for this break in transmission. Just to pick up on the point and clarify what Paul is trying to say. Marijuana and hemp come from the same cannabis plant. The significant difference, of course, being the marijuana strain of the cannabis plant contains the intoxicating ingredients that make you high, and simply hemp does not. Now, back in 1937 in America, this link was sufficient to allow the large, powerful and greedy multinational companies that compete with hemp in the biotechnologies of paper, oil, plastics and textiles to have the government ban the industry and production relating to hemp. Imagine where we would be today if that industry was allowed to proceed and not be influenced by those large, powerful multinational companies, we'd be a lot more advanced than we were. The planet would be cleaner, it'd be greener, it'd be a lot smarter, that's for sure. Anyway, that's the point. That's all I want to make. So back to Paul and Lee.
Similar to, again, opium poppies, which are only grown in Tasmania, legislation had to be created so opium poppies could be grown for the poppy seed bagels that we eat in our bakeries today. So the same thing happened about 15 years ago in Australia, where hemp started to become legal to do trials in Australia to grow hemp. And that has now expanded to most states in Australia, where you can actually now grow industrial hemp, and you can see industrial hemp growing for all these different uses, and that's currently growing.
So do you need a special license to farm and grow hemp?
Yeah, absolutely. You need a license through the Department of Primary Industries, which involves having police checks, making sure you have no drug record, and you are an upstanding member of the community, of course.
Of course.
So with that license, you can actually grow industrial hemp, but there's no point growing it unless you have a specific end use. So all of these kind of things are taken into consideration with the licenses that you can receive today.
So is there anything that you can't do with hemp legally in Australia?
Yes, well, currently you can grow it for a seed, you can process it for food, for example, but you can't actually sell and consume hemp foods in Australia right now.
So is that globally the rule?
Well, no, that's very interesting because hemp can be grown in most places around the world, but nearly all places can consume hemp as a food. It's been proven to be a nutritious substance. It's being used everywhere. And Australia is one of the last countries in the Western world to allow hemp as a food.
So is that expected to change ever?
Yeah, well, right now, food standards have actually proven that hemp is healthy for Australian people. That and the understanding that there's $500 million worth of industry that Australia is missing out on being part of, I believe that will change this year. The Forum, who are our political representatives, actually make a decision in December 2013 of this year that we expect will allow Australia to catch up with the rest of the world and support Australian farmers and create some more jobs for this country.
Is it an easy product to actually farm?
Yeah, well, you can actually grow hemp everywhere from Tasmania to northern Queensland, and it is being grown today in all these different latitudes, so that's really helpful for a country the size of Australia, of course. The fact that it uses relatively small amounts of water, certainly compared to something like cotton or sugarcane, and also the amount of pesticides used in hemp are not required. So where cotton is only 3% of the world's crop, uses 30% of the world's pesticides, hemp doesn't actually require any to be grown. So
it requires little water, no pesticides at all. And how many crops would you be able to get a year?
You could grow 2 crops quite comfortably in a year, and potentially more as well. It also looks after the soil, so it becomes a natural soil conditioner, because we have a lot of biomass being grown, deep taproot, and the leaves, where lots of nutrients go, fall back in the soil and are ploughed back into the soil, actually feeding the top of the soil. So it creates like a new earth and really vitalised and fertilised new soil for the next crop to go in rotation, or your next hemp crop.
So I hear it was used to remediate the soil around Chernobyl.
Yeah, and I believe it still is today. And in fact, in Japan, from the recent issues that we've had over there, there's some Japanese contacts from the political side have contacted me asking for input on how they can grow hemp in Japan. So I'm not sure whether that's happening right now, but the potential for hemp is really massive.
And on that note, Paul pops out a tune on a plastic didgeridoo made from, well, hemp.